E3 2021 took place earlier this month, giving console makers Xbox and Nintendo the chance to show off some of the big games coming to their platforms, but most of the part was disappointing, and the entire E3 season was missing the wow or surprise factor. But PlayStation will have their own event in a few weeks. Sony has not officially announced the rumored PlayStation event, but that hasn't stopped the rumor mill. The latest rumor is that the PlayStation event will take place on Thursday, July 8, as PlayStation State of Play events have traditionally taken place on Thursdays. This date reportedly stems from a report, and so fans should take the information with a massive grain of salt for now. As some may recall, Death Stranding Director's Cut was announced during the Summer Game Fest event that preceded E3. Following the trailer, Summer Game Fest host Jeff Keighley mentioned that the full reveal for Death Stranding Director's Cut is just weeks away. Since it seems like Death Stranding Director's Cut is a PS5 exclusive, it would make sense for it to get the spotlight at a PlayStation event, and the rumored July 8 date would certainly fall within weeks of Summer Game Fest. Whenever the next PlayStation State of Play does take place, it will be interesting to see if other recent leaks turn out to be accurate. A Ghost of Tsushima standalone expansion called Ghost of Ikishima was recently outed by leakers, with the game supposedly on track to release later this year. It's also been teased that Sony has a big surprise in store for fans, but what exactly that could be remains to be seen. There will definitely be a God of War reveal, and some surprise announcements along the way. One of last decade's biggest games was the PlayStation 4 exclusive Ghost of Tsushima from Sucker Punch. An open-world samurai game, Ghost of Tsushima earned mostly positive reviews at the time of its release, and managed to continue its momentum with a multiplayer expansion that was released sometime after launch. Now it seems that Ghost of Tsushima fans may have even more content to look forward to, as a project called Ghost of Ikishima has leaked online. Ghost of Ikishima is reportedly a standalone expansion for Ghost of Tsushima, likely in a similar vein to how Spider-Man Miles Morales is to Marvel's Spider-Man, with a planned 2021 release date. Ghost of Ikishima is a single-player game, so those wondering if it was meant to be another Ghost of Tsushima Legends multiplayer experience can likely lay that speculation to rest. What's unclear, however, is exactly what PlayStation platforms Ghost of Ikishima is coming to. Ghost of Ikishima will be a PS5 exclusive game, or if it will be a cross-gen title that's also available on PlayStation 4. While Sony has released a handful of pure PlayStation 5 exclusives so far, the majority of its first-party titles are being released on both platforms, as is the case with the upcoming Horizon Forbidden West and the God of War sequel. My guess is that Ghost of Ikishima will be a cross-gen game, but we will have to wait for an official announcement to be sure. If the leaked Ghost of Tsushima standalone expansion Ghost of Ikishima is real, then one has to wonder when exactly it will be revealed. According to the leaked information, Ghost of Ikishima is looking to launch at some point in 2021, and if that's the case, then one has to imagine that the game will be revealed sooner rather than later. However, there are no big upcoming gaming events that seem like they would be a good fit for a Ghost of Ikishima reveal, rather than the PlayStation's next big event rumored to be taking place in July 8. It is also we have known as Guerrilla Games is working on a secret project since 2018, so reports claims it as an MMO. It is unsure what the game is, but if it is an MMO, building the world around the Horizon universe would fit in the case. Or if it's a multiplayer, we can expect a Killzone or Socom reboot. Guerrilla Games is working hard to release Horizon Forbidden West to the PS4 and PS5, but according to the LinkedIn page of one of the executives, the studio may be well into development on a mystery title. According to the LinkedIn page for Guerrilla Games game director Simon LaRouche, the studio has switched to parallel development on two projects. One of these projects is the anticipated Horizon Forbidden West, but the second project is a mysterious one that hasn't been officially confirmed by Guerrilla Games. The second title has been in development for just over 3 years, which suggests that the project will be unveiled in the near future. Simon LaRouche's LinkedIn page shows his long history of game development, dating all the way back to 2004 with his designer role at Ubisoft. LaRouche worked on Star Wars, Lethal Alliance and Far Cry Instinct while with Ubisoft before departing for his first stint with Guerrilla Games back in 2006. LaRouche became a senior designer with Guerrilla Games while working on Killzone 2. After over 2 years with Guerrilla, LaRouche returned to Ubisoft as game director for Watch Dogs 2 and Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six Siege. He also acted as lead game designer for Splinter Cell Blacklist and Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six Patriots. After a brief stint with Eidos Montreal in which he worked on the now-cancelled online multiplayer for Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy, Simon LaRouche returned to Guerrilla Games as game director. LaRouche has been working with Guerrilla Games as a game director on the unannounced project for 3 years and 5 months according to his LinkedIn page. In reference to the project, LaRouche cheekily claims that the secret game is secret. The game director was brought on board for the project back in February 2018, and LaRouche remains with Guerrilla Games today. With Simon LaRouche's history on the Killzone franchise at Guerrilla Games, it wouldn't be a major shock to see him as game director for a new title in the series. His work on Killzone 2 contributed towards making the title successful on the PS3. Rumors have been circulating about Guerrilla Games working on an unannounced project, and Simon LaRouche's LinkedIn profile seems to confirm something big is in the works. Speaking of new games and surprises, Insomniac Games confirms that it is working on a new multiplayer project. Though Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart has only been available for a few weeks, developer Insomniac Games is already looking toward the future. While we do not know if it is a new IP or tied to an existing series, they do have confirmation that Insomniac's next project will feature multiplayer. Insomniac Games is no stranger to multiplayer, as it has dabbled with the format in the past. 2013's Fuse was an example of this, as were the multiplayer portions of the Resistance franchise. Sunset Overdrive also featured co-op play, and Ratchet and Clank All For One was built specifically as a multiplayer experience. While the studio has certainly had more success with its recent single-player offerings, it will be interesting to see Insomniac give multiplayer another chance with its next game. The tweet announcing the project detailed 5 available jobs, which include major roles like creative director and art director. As such, it can be assumed that the game is in the early stages of development and still far from an official release. A story lead is also mentioned, confirming that this multiplayer project will feature some level of storytelling. Beyond that, it is anyone's guess as to what the game will look like. With one popular option being Resistance, I would like to see the Chimera return. With Resistance being dormant for almost an entire decade, seeing it make a comeback would be an awesome surprise. With PlayStation currently lacking first-person shooters, bringing back Resistance could help fill the void. A multiplayer focus makes sense too, as the franchise has already featured multiplayer in the original trilogy. Doubling down on this feature makes sense given the close association between shooters and multiplayer, and it would hardly be a surprising direction for a new game. Obviously, Resistance would benefit most from a multiplayer game, as anything happening with the franchise at all would be welcome. It could also make the series more appealing to Sony, as the company reportedly shot down a Resistance 4 pitch already. Supposedly denied due to PlayStation having too many post-apocalyptic single-player games, moving towards online play could allow Resistance to live on. If it were to have a campaign, it could be entirely co-op, helping the new Resistance to further differentiate itself from other first-party titles. If a new, online-only Resistance game turned out to be a success, it could continue to get support for years to come. Other possible improvements including some deeper melee combat and the use of Ratchet and Clank, Rift Apart mechanics like rifts, and weapon firing modes. Assuming that the multiplayer is a hit, incorporating some competitive modes in a seasonal format for free content could see Resistance performing better than ever before. Still, Resistance is just one of many possibilities, as a lot of Insomniac's most beloved franchises could work as multiplayer titles. Another option may be Ratchet and Clank co-op game. With Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart's ending setting up future entries and 2 playable Lombaxes now available, a co-op game does not seem to be out of the realm of possibility. Kit's addition only adds to this, as it ensures that both characters would have a robotic companion. Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart's ending perfectly sets up a co-op game, as it has the exact same potential as Marvel's Spiderman. With Ratchet and Rivet, there are now 2 playable Lombaxes for gamers to control, and both will be working together in the next game. With each having a robotic companion as well as shared weapon inventories, the setup is there for a proper co-op adventure. Blasting through enemies and exploring a Lombax planet with a friend seems like a great setup for a game, and it makes sense given the series' past co-op games. The Ratchet and Clank series has dabbled with co-op on 2 separate occasions. While Ratchet and Clank All 4-1 was a decent outing, Ratchet and Clank Full Frontal Assault was lacking overall. Regardless, it is clear that the series can be built around multiplayer, and Insomniac can finally nail the concept with a new game. A co-op Ratchet and Clank sequel would also allow players to see Ratchet and Rivet interact more. The same can be said for Clank and Kit, as the two share very few moments together in Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. As such, Insomniac giving Ratchet and Clank co-op a third try could be beneficial. Yet another option could be a Sunset Overdrive sequel. With Sony filing a Sunset Overdrive trademark in May, and a sequel leaking via Reset Era, it does seem like a possibility. With Sunset Overdrive trademarked by Sony recently, and the social media account becoming active for the first time in years, the series making a comeback would make sense. While the original featured co-op play, a new entry could double down on the feature, making it the entire focus of the game. Being able to team up with a friend through all the story missions could be a lot of fun, and having the ability to combine attacks would be great. Leaning into the ridiculous weaponry of the original, Insomniac games could add some team-up moves for each of the guns. A co-op-focused sequel works well with the Sunset Overdrive universe, as the game does not take itself too seriously. While there is a chance that a game like Marvel's Spider-Man could suffer from co-op, as it could distract from its narrative, a Sunset Overdrive sequel could thrive because of it. More references, jokes, and silly moments could come from having an additional player, all of which were important to the first game's success. With the first game being all about over-the-top fun, grinding rails and fighting the OD alongside another player certainly fits with its tone. Even Marvel's Spider-Man would work, as both Miles and Peter have their own fleshed-out movesets. Being able to swing through the city with a friend could be interesting, adding a new layer to the sequel's open-world mechanics. While it would be a big change given that the first 2 entries were single-player focused, the next Marvel Spider-Man game featuring co-op would make sense. After all, Insomniac now has 2 playable Spider-Men, with both Miles Morales and Peter Parker having fleshed-out movesets. As such, each player would have an equally entertaining Spider-Man to play as, complete with their own skills and costumes to wear. Teaming up during big fights could be a lot of fun, especially if 2 players could come together through combo finishers. Combining different gadgets could be enjoyable too. While Marvel's Spider-Man 2 would need to make sure that a co-op focus does not have a negative impact on the story, it is hard not to be interested in the possibilities. Being able to complete the open-world side activities with a friend could make them feel a lot less repetitive, and just being able to swing with a partner would be exciting. While the series certainly does not need multiplayer, and would benefit the least from a co-op game, it could still be a lot of fun. With Insomniac able to double down on its 2 Spider-Men, and even introduce some other playable characters, there is potential for a multiplayer game in the future. While nobody has a clue as to what this multiplayer game could be, it is certainly exciting. Whether it be a Marvel Spider-Man sequel, a Resistance reboot, or something brand new, all we know for sure is that Insomniac Games is setting out to deliver an online experience. Both Marvel's Spider-Man and Spider-Man Miles Morales were great experiences for Spider-Man fans. With a beautifully designed open world filled with Easter eggs and superhero stories that fit the characters, there was not much to not love in the 2 recent Spider-Man games. Marvel's Spider-Man on PS4 in particular moved past the traditional beginnings and backstory that many fans are aware of to put Peter Parker in a more mature spotlight. Faced with the passing of his Aunt May, betrayal from his mentor Dr. Octavius, and becoming a mentor to Miles Morales, Peter was forced to go from a geeky young adult to a responsible and mature superhero. These changes did not take away any of the fun that came with playing as Spider-Man, but added to the atmosphere and quality of the character. This quality stemmed into the Spider-Man Miles Morales game, and has now provided a possible avenue for a unique Spider-Man video game experience. With 2 fully fledged Spiders to choose from, the next Spider-Man game could open the door to a co-op Spider-Man adventure. With Insomniac Games currently hiring for several positions, it looks like there will be an emphasis on multiplayer in the studio's next game. With positions like creative director, story lead, art director, and a systems designer specifically for multiplayer, it might be safe to say not only is this future game ambitious, but it will also be specifically multiplayer focused. While this multiplayer title has not been revealed to the public yet, two of Insomniac Games' largest series in the last couple of years both have fans clamoring for sequels already. Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart has gotten rave reviews and praise for the series' return. With how popular the Lombax and robot duo have been over the years, it is not super surprising, especially with Rift Apart being a significant step forward for the PS5 and the franchise. In a similar vein, Spider-Man and Spider-Man Miles Morales have set up an amazing universe and story that many fans would like to see expanded on. With the end of Spider-Man Miles Morales, this expansion could easily come in the form of a multiplayer game. Miles Morales' story is quite independent of Peter Parker, and shows that the teenage kid that was a part of the first Spider-Man game on PS4 is ready to be a hero for the world. With the proximity of both Spider-Men to each other, it would feel like a missed opportunity to not have them available as partners and teammates for one another in the series' next installment. From a gameplay perspective, it can be hard to visualize how this exactly would go, but there seem to be a few options when considering it. Depending on what the co-op experience's main purpose is in the game, players could see anything from a fully integrated co-op experience to specific missions and quests. With the technological advancements made on PS5 consoles, a co-op New York as big as it has been in the past might be a possibility. With a full co-op campaign, the best approach would probably be an optional one. A constantly available AI could disrupt player immersion, but the option for drop-in drop-out co-op in the next Spider-Man title could provide a great experience. This approach would allow players to run main narrative missions solo or with a friend. It would also complement a story that is split between both Miles Morales and Peter Parker, highlighting each of their struggles and victories along the way. This diverse experience could allow for independent and larger skill trees for each Spidey, as well as side missions that can be played solo aimed at each of the playable characters and their development in the story. In such a scenario, there is nothing lost by playing alone or with a friend, and the co-op experience could be fully realized as a part of the game. It would also allow for the stories of Miles and Peter to be interconnected in a way that complements each of their characters and shows their proximity to one another instead of having them separate from each other. Other options for multiplayer in the next Spider-Man game might not be as ambitious as a full co-op experience, but could still be a good explanation for the roles that Insomniac Games is currently hiring for. Even if the next Spider-Man game is heavily or entirely focused on Peter Parker's Spider-Man, it is likely that it will include Miles in some way due to them being in the same city. It might be a bit hard to explain away the character's absence from the story, but a good workaround would be optional co-op content. A co-op multiplayer experience does not need to be integrated into every aspect of the game, but there could be certain missions or activities that allow people to play together. Much like the Taskmaster challenges from the first Spider-Man game, there could be new challenges and side quests for friends to work through as teammates. This would still allow the campaign to be entirely single-player, while also offering cooperative gameplay for Spider-Man 2. Similarly, the next Spider-Man game could also include co-op DLC. The DLC for the first Spider-Man on PS4 explored some of Spidey's classic, but lesser villains in a space that was not directly tied to the main story. A similar approach for Miles Morales and Peter Parker DLC could allow for people to play as one of the two characters and work together to stop villains from each of their comics' history. While Peter Parker's Spider-Man has a large gallery of rogues to choose from, Miles Morales' newer presence has allowed for some interesting and original introductions in his time as Spider-Man. Even though fighting each character's villains and full co-op multiplayer is somewhat of a wish list, it is not bad to be hopeful for some form of co-op in the next Spider-Man game. There is a lot that has been set up, and given the amazing experiences that players have already had, it would not be surprising to have some curveballs thrown if Spider-Man 2 is announced soon. The last few years have given us consistent Spider-Man games and movies to enjoy, and hopefully, the next game will be announced soon with shiny new features and all. Moving forward, we have an update from the Blue Box Studios, as Blue Box Game again delays the trailer for its highly anticipated PS5 console exclusive cinematic horror title Abandoned. Something is wrong going with this one, or the PlayStation community is getting fooled. First they said it is a PlayStation 5 exclusive, then later in Twitter they said that it is also coming to PC. And then the timer to the trailer for the game was cancelled and moved to August. Blue Box Game Studios has had its hands full, to say the least. Abandoned has been swamped in rumors of it being a Silent Hill project since it was first announced in April. To be fair, a few of the tweets put out by Blue Box appeared to hint at a confirmation, though the developer has since consistently refuted any collaborations with Kojima or the Silent Hill IP. That said, while Abandoned has been delayed before, the circumstances of this one have certainly sent fans into a frenzy. Early Friday, Karaman posted a video on the official Blue Box Game Studios Twitter to announce that the Abandoned trailer would be delayed once more. Noting that the last few weeks have been stressful and his team exhausted from working, Karaman states that he made the decision to delay the Abandoned app until August, as well as the first trailer. Karaman further goes on to say that they want Abandoned to make a solid first impression. In addition to wanting to meet their own expectations, the director notes that some last-minute bugs popped up, and it would seem that localization issues factored in as well. Dedicated Silent Hill fans probably remember that August 12th was the release date for the PT demo and, if somehow the case, would line up perfectly with a reveal. On the other hand, some gamers have been quick to voice their frustration. Perhaps the most shocking fact regarding the delay is the fact that there was a 12-hour live stream counting down to the reveal of the Abandoned trailer. Some believe that the channel is fake, though it's worth noting that Blue Box Game Studios only tweeted once the stream ended. Others have questioned why Karaman wouldn't have made an announcement sooner, let alone holding an official countdown. Either way, the rumor mill is spinning, though it seems like definitive answers won't be had until sometime in August. Fans of Silent Hill have been waiting for many years to see a new game. During the early 2000s, there was always Silent Hill content coming out. Konami seemed determined to deliver chilling experiences on the regular after the concept proved successful thanks to the first game, released in 1999. However, everything changed because of PT. Hideo Kojima, the acclaimed former Konami developer responsible for the Metal Gear series, was working on a game called Silent Hills in 2014. PT was a playable trailer for the game. It was a truly horrifying game to experience, and it's proven influential in years since. Unfortunately, Kojima and Konami parted ways shortly after PT's release, effectively canceling Silent Hills. There hasn't been a Silent Hill game since. This context is crucial to understanding what's going on with Abandoned right now. Silent Hill fans are desperate to see their beloved horror franchise make a comeback. Even though Hideo Kojima wasn't central to Silent Hill before his cancelled project, the falling out with Konami seems to have put Silent Hill on the shelf for now. Now fans are desperate to see the series make a comeback. The hope is that Kojima, who famously likes to play mind games with fans, has a secret plan with Konami to work on Silent Hill again and surprise fans with a new entry. This takes us to the Metal Gear Solid 5 reveal, where Kojima hid behind a fake studio called the Moby Dick Studio. A similar situation can happen again. And also the newly released official Silent Hill merch from Konami includes a letter S, adding to the word Silent Hill at the end, sneaky. Whether it is Silent Hills or simply Abandoned, giving a fake countdown only to frustrate fans is an ununderstandable one, and, if we want to know about the actual one, we have to wait another month to get the answer. Speaking of horror, Bokeh Game Studio, the new company founded by the creator of Silent Hill, shares details and concepts about their upcoming horror game. It has been a couple of months since few have heard any official news from Silent Hill creator Keiichiro Toyama. Most would likely recall the announcement stating that his new company, Bokeh Game Studio, is currently producing a new horror title. Now, another interview has been published by the company, and this time, founder, producer, and COO of Bokeh Game Studio, Kazunaba Sato, shares more about his game development journey, including some details about their ongoing project. Sato is mostly known for his work on the horror series Siren, which can be considered by fans as one of the best horror games during its time period. Originally working on the characters for the Siren series, he eventually came into the role of game producer for Sony Interactive Entertainment's The Last Guardian. However, according to Sato, when Toyama had approached him about a new project, he had decided to come on board to help found and become producer for Bokeh Game Studio. In a spotlight video published on the official Bokeh Game Studio YouTube channel, Sato outlined a brief history of his experience as a game writer and then producer. At around the 9-minute mark, Sato talks about the upcoming horror title he is working on with Toyama. When Toyama presented him with the game's concept, he initially thought it would make for a terrible game. He says this because of how the game will mess with the player's mind. This comes from the fact that the gameplay will have players make choices, and for each choice they make, there must be a sacrifice. And according to Sato, these sacrifices will scale highly within the game, therefore making each choice quite painful and mentally stressful for the player. He also talked a bit about first meeting Toyama for a job interview. Albeit being another fan of the Silent Hill series, Sato shared that he did not know until after the interview that he was talking face-to-face with Toyama already. Being both a founder and producer of Bokeh Game Studio, he was very transparent about issues of balancing funds that ensure the production of a good quality video game, while also keeping the company afloat during the middle of the pandemic. With the amount of horror games in the market today, such as Phasmophobia, The Medium, and Resident Evil Village, it seems the audience is ripe for another Silent Hill-esque title. Unfortunately, we will have to wait longer for official news as Bokeh Game Studio has yet to announce the actual name and reveal and release date of their upcoming game. And that's all for the video, guys. Like and share the video for a greater audience. Comment your thoughts on the topics, and if you want to contribute for the growth of the channel, the link to my PayPal in the video's description and in the channel banner. Donations are always appreciated. Thanks for watching the video. Subscribe to the channel and click the bell icon, and until then from SMPV it's goodbye.